Have you ever wondered why car dealerships are hiding thousands of unsold cars in back lots, even as their showrooms appear empty? The truth might shock you. In this video, we'll uncover the hidden crisis no one in the auto industry wants to talk about: how skyrocketing prices, repossessions, and collapsing car values are converging to create the perfect storm for a market meltdown. A couple of decades ago, buying a new car didn't feel like you were signing up for a mortgage. Fast forward to today, and even entry-level vehicles that were once considered affordable are now priced out of reach for many families. For perspective, a Range Rover Sport, seen as a luxury vehicle, has jumped in price by 41% over the last 10 years. But here's the kicker: that level of increase hasn't been limited to high-end brands. Average vehicles are edging dangerously close to what only luxury buyers used to expect. So what changed? The rise in car prices isn't just about inflation. It's tied to a perfect storm of increased production costs, stricter government regulations, and the rapid integration of high-tech features into even base models. Safety mandates, complex emission standards, and the push for electric vehicles have added layers to the price of manufacturing. While these regulations have undoubtedly made cars safer and more efficient, the cost has been passed directly to the consumer. And every time automakers add a flashy digital dashboard or a suite of smart driving aids, it adds another reason to tack more digits onto the MSRP. For everyday buyers, the disappearance of sub-$20,000 vehicles has been particularly punishing. Consider the Nissan Versa S, a model that symbolized affordability for years. As of 2023, Nissan confirmed the discontinuation of that minimalist trim, leaving budget-conscious families scrambling for alternatives. And it's not just Nissan. Across the board, brands have been steadily walking away from low-cost vehicles, favoring SUVs, crossovers, and luxury trims. Why? Because customers willing to pay a premium for leather interiors and massive touchscreens translate to bigger profit margins. Unfortunately, this shift leaves buyers focused on practicality, like families purchasing their first vehicle, with little to no options. But the sticker price is just the start of the story. Owning a car has become a financial pitfall in more ways than one. Take car insurance, for instance. It's not just creeping up, it's skyrocketing. Premiums now average over $2,000 per year in many states, fueled by the increased cost to repair modern vehicles with all their sensors and tech. Combine that with rising interest rates, and suddenly, financing a car feels less like making a purchase and more like taking on a long-term financial strain. For some households, those monthly payments now rival their rent or mortgage costs. A vehicle may represent freedom and convenience, but managing those hidden expenses can feel suffocating. What's worse, these trends have started pricing out even those with decent credit and reasonable incomes. Showrooms, once buzzing with customers, are surprisingly still. Sure, dealerships may advertise attractive financing offers, but it becomes clear upon closer inspection that these discounts hardly make a dent in the larger problem. Auto loans stretched over longer terms, sometimes 84 months or more, highlight just how desperate buyers have become to make payments manageable. Yet this only ensures they're locked in longer while paying exponentially more in interest. In many ways, automakers have designed a market where they've boxed out the very people they've relied on for decades: middle-class households. Without entry-level options and practical pricing, an entire generation of potential buyers is left with limited opportunities. Automakers prioritize profit over sustainability and accessibility, and now they're reaping what they've sown: an unpopular, overpriced inventory. Behind the glossy showrooms and sales pitches, something unsettling is happening. Dealerships are busy manipulating what inventory is visible to disguise falling demand. Cars aren't just disappearing from lots, they're being purposefully hidden. But why? What's really behind this charade? And how bad is the situation? That's where things get even more revealing. Walk into a dealership today, and chances are you'll notice something strange. The showroom feels unusually empty, with just a handful of vehicles scattered around, arranged as if to distract from how little there really is to see. But here's the odd part. Those showrooms aren't empty because the cars have sold out. Just behind the building or in an off-site lot, there's an ocean of unsold inventory sitting quietly. Dealerships are deliberately keeping cars out of sight to create the illusion of demand. The question is, why? The answer reveals the deeper struggles of the car market. This tactic is all about appearances. By limiting what's on display, dealerships aim to make customers think vehicles are selling fast. They want buyers to feel like they're competing for what's left, hoping that sense of urgency will push people toward pricey purchases. Meanwhile, the supposedly limited inventory sits untouched just down the street. And it's not just the showroom floor they're manipulating. Prices on those cars often carry artificial discounts. What looks like a great deal in the ad, like thousands off the MSRP, rarely does much to make these cars genuinely affordable. Lurking behind every sale is the reality of high financing costs, where even reduced prices leave monthly payments out of reach for most buyers. The real reason they're forced into these kinds of tactics leads back to financial strain. With rising interest rates, financing a car has become punishingly expensive. Today, the average interest rate on a new car loan is near double what it was just a few years ago. For many, even a modest discount isn't enough to balance out the crushing weight of higher monthly payments and increasing loan terms. This is especially true for vehicles that already came with a hefty price tag. It's no surprise that buyers are starting to walk away. But the damage doesn't end with high prices. Years of aggressive, profit-driven behavior by dealerships have left customers wary. During the pandemic, dealerships bumped up markups by thousands of dollars, squeezed buyers with mandatory add-ons, and buried hidden fees into contracts. At the time, people were willing to play along because inventory was scarce. Now those tactics have come back to haunt them. Consumer trust has plummeted, and many customers who remembered those practices are hesitant to step back into a dealership. Combine that mistrust with the sheer cost barrier, and you begin to understand why showrooms are so quiet. As trust fades and prices rise, another problem bubbles to the surface: repossessions. Over the last year, repossessions have jumped by 23%, impacting not just subprime borrowers, but even those with solid credit. Vehicles like Teslas, Explorers, and Dodge Chargers are being hauled back to dealerships because owners simply can't keep up with their loans. These repossessions are flooding the used car market with supply, which brings its own consequences. A heavier inventory of secondhand cars pushes prices down. Depreciation accelerates. Owners find themselves stuck in negative equity on new loans, and dealerships are left with both new and used stock gathering dust. High-end models have been hit particularly hard. Luxury trucks and SUVs that once seemed untouchable are now sitting unsold for months. Models like the Bronco Raptor and the Ford F-350 Platinum sit abandoned on backlots despite discounts that would have seemed unheard of just a few years ago. The truth? The market for these high-priced vehicles has all but collapsed. For an industry that relies heavily on big-ticket sales, this is a ticking time bomb. Used cars, once considered a safe bet for budget-conscious buyers, are now at the center of a market collapse that's leaving both buyers and dealerships scrambling. In some cases, the numbers aren't just shocking, they're gut-wrenching. Take the 2022 Ford Edge. Not long ago, one of these mid-size SUVs could have sold for $38,000. Today, it might struggle to fetch $25,000. That's a $13,000 plunge in just over a year, or more than a 30% drop in value. And this isn't an isolated case. Across the board, vehicles that were overhyped and overpriced during the pandemic are seeing their values drop by double digits at an unprecedented pace. For real people, this financial reality is devastating. Imagine someone like Sarah, who financed her SUV in 2022 at a bloated price of $42,000. Today, that same SUV might be worth only $28,000, but her loan balance hasn't budged much after 2 years of payments. She's underwater on her loan by nearly $14,000, and her dealership won't take the trade-in unless she coughs up the negative equity difference. She feels trapped in a vehicle she no longer wants and can't keep up with. And stories like Sarah's are playing out across the country, putting a human face on this financial crisis. The most troubling part is that this collapse in used car values isn't just a symptom of a struggling economy. It's actively driving the car market's larger meltdown. Buyers aren't buying, sellers aren't selling, and dealerships are stuck trying to ride out the storm. Every piece of the market structure is buckling under the strain, and automakers must now face a new, harsh reality. The big question is, can they adapt, or is the industry in for an even steeper decline? The collapse of the car market isn't just about rising prices or a flood of repossessions. It's the result of years of automakers prioritizing profits over people. Walking away from affordable models and focusing on luxury, EVs, and high-tech features created a deep disconnect with everyday buyers. Now, with empty showrooms and overflowing lots, the consequences of those decisions are unavoidable. The question is, will manufacturers and dealerships adapt, or are we witnessing the end of car ownership as we know it? Change is already in motion, and as this crisis unfolds, the future of driving might look very different.